Hey guys, how's it going? So I just want to thank everyone for watching the last video that I made. Hopefully it was helpful and insightful, and that was 10 things that I learned in my first year of marriage. Today I'm going to talk about good qualities that wives should have. So this is for if you're single, or if you're dating, or if you're married. Hopefully this could be of any help. And like I said before, I'm definitely not perfect. I'm not in any way extremely experienced, but I can tell you out of moments in my marriage where I've practiced these things, it has helped and it has worked, and it's been a great ride so far. And I can only tell you it's about serving your spouse. So let's get started. So before we get started, I want to bring up just a little statistic article from the APA, which is the American Psychological Association. For those that don't know, I went to school for counseling psychology with a minor in sociology. So I'm really into psychology and marriages, family, all that has to do with the family dynamics. I'm really into this, and the reason why is because a healthy family starts in the home, and then from there everything else evolves. And so I really want people to have great marriages. You know, I think a lot of us see the examples of our parents, or maybe we didn't have another parent in the home, and we were raised by a single parent, or we saw all these things, our parents, or we came from divorced parents. And you don't have to be part of a statistic. You don't have to be part of this cycle and this chain. You can break those chains. You can break those cycles for your family, for your benefit. So I'm going to read the statistic and let's get started. So it says marriage and divorce are both common experiences in Western cultures. More than 90% of people marry by the age of 50. Healthy marriages are good for couples' mental and physical health. Growing up in a happy home protects children from mental, physical, educational, and social problems. However, about 40 to 50% of married couples in the United States divorce. The divorce rate for subsequent marriages is even higher. So that's just very interesting. You know, healthy marriages is good for the family dynamic, good for children. They get to see this good example in the home, and so they have less rates of poverty in their home. They have more social benefits to children that are growing up in a healthy family. So those are all very good things to have in the home, and that's why striving for a healthy marriage is good. 40 to 50% of married couples end up being divorced. And then there's another statistic that says that the number one reason for couples to get married is for love. So it's so interesting that people, they go to the altar, they say I do. No one really goes to the altar and says I want to get divorced, right? Or else they would not get married. I think I mentioned that in my previous video. I mean, unless you're, I don't know, maybe extremely wealthy and you're in it for the money, or in it for power, or in it for control. But most marriages, they don't get married because they want to get divorced, or they're looking forward to that day. They get married because they're in love and they want to spend the rest of their lives with their partner. But there's another statistic that says that about 86% of divorces happen because of not extreme reasons. They're emotional based reasons. And so they end up falling out of love, or they have a misunderstanding, or they have a small argument and they turn into something extremely big. So before I get started, I want to share a story with y'all, some real life me. And recently my husband and I went to a trip, a little road trip to Michigan, and it was super fun. It was super great, and I just love bonding with my spouse whenever we get the chance. It's so good to just spend some quality time together and laugh. But before we went on our trip, we got into a little disagreement about something very small and insignificant and so dumb. And this will happen in marriage. For those that are not married, no. For those that are married, that when you get into arguments, you think it's about the big stuff. No, it's not sometimes. Sometimes it's as small as a pair of socks. A pair of socks. That's what happened to us. A pair of stinking socks. Like, that was our argument. We were so upset, at each other. We did not speak to each other. I ended up, sleeping on the sofa for a little bit, thinking that was gonna make him mad. It is not a good idea to not sleep with your spouse. So fix it before the night ends. Do not let, the Bible says, do not let the sun go down on your anger. I ended up going back to bed with my spouse, and we still were upset the next morning, and it was so dumb, but we ended up making up and talking about it, because communication is so important. That conversation, even though it was about a pair of socks, was so uncomfortable. Like, not so, but it was like, it didn't feel good to talk about it. Like, I just wanted to brush it off and be like, okay, like, forgive me, I'm sorry, you know, kind of deal. We need to really talk about things that hurt us and have conversations, because these conversations heal the marriage and it makes it so much stronger. Some people just want to give up. You know, in the moment I wanted to give up and I want to be like, this is dumb, this is socks, like. But I just want to say that later on, my husband and I, we had a talk, and basically talking about like the pair of socks and how like silly that was, but it was necessary for our marriage. And my husband's like, I love having happy days with you. I love having like a good marriage and for us just to spend it good. Like, anyone who knows me knows that I'm terrified of storms. And I would tell myself, like, I just love sunny days. Like, I want sunny days every single day. Nobody likes the rainy days of marriage, but those days are great. They're great learning days. Appreciate the stormy days of marriage and learn to cultivate them, learn to talk about it, learn to not brush it off, but learn and grow from those experiences, because they're very helpful in your marriage. A quality that's so important for a wife to have, I think, is a wife that is trusting. You want to be able to be someone that your spouse can just vent and pour out and just be himself with. You know, you don't want to be someone that he thinks that is judging and is nagging and he can't even open up to his own wife. You know, I think that's where a man can just like shut himself down when he feels like judged, or you're his wife, not his mother, not his sister. You're his wife, and that's a very special role. You know, that's someone that you can be his friend, you can laugh with him, and also be a shoulder for him to find comfort and to find trust in. I think it's so important to be a wife that he can trust. Another great quality of a wife, I think, is a wife that is kind. Kindness goes a very long way. I've definitely changed from the time that we were dating to the time that we were married. I had my moments. I still do have my moments, man. I'm not perfect. I just pray to God, like, give me a spirit of kindness. Like, I really need that, especially in moments where I'm frustrated and I can easily lash out. Like, I need to just decompress and find the time and tell my spouse, like, if it's not a good time, just let him know, like, give me space. And I want to talk to you and say things in the most loving way possible. Say things in a loving way, in a kind way. Like, let me give you a little example. So let's say that you're frustrated. You know, your spouse may be also frustrated. And maybe you're frustrated because you're a wife, and especially in the Hispanic culture, you know, you both work jobs. Let's say you both work full-time jobs, and then you come home, and as a woman, especially in the Hispanic culture, you will find yourself maybe cleaning and cooking and doing all these things. And there's a difference doing things out of love and doing things because you feel like you have to. And you want to make sure that you're doing them out of love and out of a genuine heart. But let's say that maybe you're not feeling it. Maybe you're feeling unappreciated. And your husband may say, hey, you're like, well, what's wrong with you today? And you're like, well, if only you would help me with these dishes. Like, you never do anything around. Like, I'm always the one cleaning. That is going to cause your spouse to just react in a not very positive way, as the way that you say things is everything. Saying them with kindness versus like a very condescending and judgy way can change a lot of things. Another super important quality of a wife is a wife that prays for her spouse. I cannot tell you how important this is. Every time that I pray for my spouse, I see a change. I see, you know, God just working in his life, and I see him seeking the Lord. And whenever my spouse is aligned with the Lord, it's so easy for me to submit to my spouse. If you're going through a difficult patch in your marriage, know that you're not the only one. There's a lot of married couples that go through rough patches, and some harder than others, but it's so important to communicate and do our best, do our part as a wife to serve our spouse. I want to say that's key. Being supportive of a wife that supports her husband. The Bible says that you are the helper of your spouse, so being that helper, being a best friend, like I said. Your spouse didn't marry you for you to be his mother or be his sister, but to be his wife. And that's like being his best friend and laughing and having fun together. Another huge thing is respect. a spouse wants to be respected. And I think that that's just so important. It just says a lot about your relationship and how you treat each other. Respect is something that men crave, just like women crave love and affection. Men want respect. So if you want to receive that, respect your spouse, and don't treat him like he's less than. Seeing someone less than because they don't have a degree or they don't have a good job or they don't have status. I don't think that's a valid reason for not to get married with someone. Respect his space, I think, is very important as well. Men need their time to decompress and not be bugged around or pushed around. That's why man caves are great, Listen to your spouse. Sometimes they don't want a answer, just like wives do. They don't want an answer right away, but just being someone that you can be an ear for them and just listen to them. Don't think about what you're going to say next. Just listen to everything and all of it. Be appreciative. I think it's so important for a wife to be grateful for those things. Look at what your spouse does, and be thankful. Thank you for driving us down this road trip. Thank you for providing for our family. Thank you for making me laugh. Thank you for the quality time. Thank you for this. Thank you for that. Being an appreciative wife and saying those things and learning his love language. Pick your fights. I think this is so big. At the beginning of our marriage, I was not very smart about how I would pick my fights, and I would just kind of argue about everything, and it got to a point where I was even annoyed with myself and just learning is this worth fighting for? Because it's something so small, but we can make it so big. So pick your fights. Honesty is so important. Being someone that he can trust, like I mentioned. Accepting him. Accept him as he is. Celebrate his differences. This is a huge one. You cannot change someone. You need to accept them for who they are and don't expect them to change in marriage, right? Don't nag. That's huge. Compliment your spouse. Ooh, you smell good. You look good. I like what you did with your hair. Compliment your spouse. I have no idea what I was writing here. I put communicate needs P.I. What? Communicate needs P.I. No idea what communicate needs P.I. I have no idea what I was trying to say. But communication is very important. So these were my qualities of a good wife, and I hope they're helpful. Bye.